It's snitchatron.
You got
What y'all expected out of Pooh Shiesty since he just got out?
So what we expecting out of Pooh Shiesty since he just got out?
Yeah. Music. Yeah,
music for sure.
To get it back in blood.
Get back in that music for sure.
That's all he gonna be focused on watching. That's all you gonna see.
Don't do no club.
He ain't about to do. He just about to drop hella shit.
No bullshit right now.
He just about to drop shit.
Ain't putting on, man. That's all we know, man. Putting on like the lawn, man. Freedom murder, man. Know what's going on.
Their way.
Devils who got them served. They weren't doing it for a little saint, man.
And if one of those, was it 9 guys altogether? 7 guys? How many guys was it altogether?
I believe it was 9.
Yeah, I believe it was 9 guys. It was Pooh Shiesty, his dad, Big 30, and 6 other guys, right?
Right.
If one of them turns and says the entire story from beginning to end, good luck. Good luck with that.
Which is highly likely.
Highly likely. Because here's the thing.
Well, Pooh Shiesty's dad's already a cooperator.
Really?
Pooh Shiesty's dad's a rat. Whack 100 dropped the paperwork. I validated that shit. Pooh Shiesty's dad went to the feds and got a 5K1 motion for agreeing to cooperate now and in the future on future cases.
Oh.
You think his father's gonna do it? No. It's gonna be a Queso and Queso's dad 2.0. Nah, I thought I was just printing some. I didn't know my son was gonna pull that bitch out. I didn't know he was gonna do all that shit. Pooh Shiesty's dad really ain't do nothing but stand there. He ain't pull out a.
Well, right, but according to the paperwork, Pooh Shiesty put a to Gucci's head, made him sign, handed the contract to his dad, and his dad said, "Oh, it's missing a date." Gave it back to Gucci with the still brandished, and had him sign. You can't say I had nothing to do with it.
No, he can say.
You're in the room when getting pulled out.
Your Honor, Gucci was under duress. I was under duress. I didn't know my son was gonna pull that big. He can run it the same fucking way. Literally the same way. Homie, he pulled out all of us in the room himself. We didn't know he was gonna do that. It's the same shit. Man, his dad's old, bro. You think he's about to sit down for 30? That's a life sentence. It's over with. He ain't gonna do that. He already cooperated in a previous case. What, he gonna hit a federal pen with the paperwork that he has on him? He ain't gonna do that.
If he out there,
I gotta agree with that.
When he get off work and he out there shooking and jamming and bamming and jamming and coming up and then something happen and he tell, I don't care about that 16-hour shift you just put in and all that and got them taxes deducted from all that. Nah, nigga, your ass is a rat. That's just it. Yeah. It's either you over here or you over there. Ain't no, I was halfway in between both. Nah, ever.
But now that you say that, we still gotta see if Gucci Mane is, doing these things. But he seemed like he's living a legal life. And now they kidnap him and put guns on. But then another thing I heard, I'm not saying this is true, I don't know. This is just all speculation for us. We're just speaking about it. Pooh Shiesty, his dad was supposed to have told or something like that before? Is that what they were saying in the media? The dad?
Yes. They said yes. They said that Pooh Shiesty's dad was an informant somewhere along the line. These are just allegations. I'm gonna look a bit deeper into it. I don't really like Sprint, but I read that. They said that, and a lot of these things come out. I don't know if it's fake news, but they said the man told before.
Yeah, because also,
I don't know, y'all in there, y'all probably could find it for me real fast. Man, family, text back in the chat, but Pooh Shiesty's dad has supposed to have been an informant already before this even happened. But I may be wrong. But pull it up for me, y'all.
Yeah. And now, Pooh Shiesty, let's go to him. This situation now for him, he just came home months ago, right? A few months ago. I don't know when exactly he came home, but he just came home a few months ago.
It started with a clip that spread fast across the internet. A Memphis rapper inside federal prison, allegedly getting checked, questioned, and stripped of the image he built outside. Some said he was being pressured, others said it was exaggerated, and a few insisted none of it even happened the way people were describing it. But once a story like that hits the internet, it doesn't stay simple for long. Because now it wasn't just about a rapper doing time, it became a debate about something bigger. What really happens when fame walks into federal prison and nobody cares who you were outside? And in the middle of it all was Pooh Shiesty, a name that once belonged to viral hits, platinum success, and a rising Memphis wave, suddenly tied to rumors, contradictions, and prison stories that never seem to fully match up. But the truth? It's not as clean as the internet made it sound, and by the end of this, you'll see why every version of this story sounds completely different depending on who's telling it. The rise of Pooh Shiesty didn't feel gradual, it felt explosive. Memphis had already been producing heat in the rap scene for years, but when Pooh Shiesty broke through, it felt like a new wave had arrived overnight. His sound was aggressive, direct, and built for viral moments. He wasn't trying to blend in, he was trying to stand out. Then came the moment that changed everything. A collaboration with Lil Durk on Back in Blood. That track didn't just perform well, it took over timelines, clubs, and playlists at the same time. Suddenly, Pooh Shiesty wasn't just a regional name, he was being discussed like the next major face out of Memphis. Millions of streams turned into industry attention. Industry attention turned into pressure. And pressure, in this world, always comes with a shadow you don't see at first. Because while the music was climbing, something else was quietly building in the background. A legal situation that would eventually flip everything upside down. When federal charges hit, the tone changed immediately. This wasn't street-level drama or rumors floating online. This was federal court, paperwork, and a system that doesn't move based on popularity or fan support. The case tied to incidents in Miami escalated quickly, and before long, a plea deal was on the table. A guilty plea, a sentence measured in years, and a future that suddenly had walls around it. The government pushed for a long sentence. The defense pushed back. And what came out of it was a reduced number compared to what could have been far worse, but still enough to remove him from the world he had just started dominating. And that's where the shift really begins. Because prison doesn't care about your streaming numbers, it doesn't care about your fan base, and it definitely doesn't care what your image was supposed to represent. Inside federal custody, everything resets. And that's where the stories started to split into different directions. Some people said Pooh Shiesty walked into that environment, adapting quickly, staying quiet, and avoiding attention. Others claimed something completely different, that the image fans knew from music didn't translate the same way behind walls where reputation is built differently. And this is where the internet did what it always does. It filled in the gaps. Allegations started circulating online. Stories from supposed inmates, posts from social media accounts, and commentary channels all began repeating versions of the same idea, that things inside weren't as smooth as people assumed. Some claimed he was being tested socially, others claimed there were situations involving pressure and respect dynamics. And a few went even further, describing moments that painted a harsh picture of prison hierarchy and how celebrities fit into it. But none of it was consistent. Every version contradicted another version, and that's where things get interesting. Because in federal prison, there's one rule that always holds true. If something major really happens, it doesn't stay quiet for long. So the question becomes, why were there so many versions but no unified truth? To understand that, you have to understand the environment itself. Federal prison isn't one single system, it's a layered structure with its own internal politics. There are groups, alliances, personal codes, and unspoken rules that change depending on where you are and who you're around. When a high-profile inmate enters that environment, it creates attention whether they want it or not. Some people are curious, some are cautious, and some are opportunistic. But here's what most outside observers miss. Fame inside prison doesn't automatically give you power. Sometimes it does the opposite. It makes you visible. And visibility in that environment is never neutral. It either works for you, or it puts you under a microscope. That's why so many conflicting stories started to surface. Because different people were seeing different moments, and interpreting them through completely different lenses. One of the most talked about topics in all of this was money. Because unlike most inmates, Pooh Shiesty wasn't entering that system broke or disconnected. He had a music career behind him, a label structure, a fan base, and ongoing financial support that continued even while he was locked up. And in federal prison, that changes everything. Commissary isn't just food, it's leverage. It affects comfort, relationships, and daily survival. With enough money, inmates can improve their situation significantly compared to the average person inside. Better food, better hygiene items, better access to communication, even small privileges that change how day-to-day life feels. But money also creates attention. And attention always comes with risk, because once people know someone has consistent funds, that becomes part of their identity inside the system. So when people online tried to frame his prison experience as either completely comfortable or completely chaotic, both versions were missing the nuance. Reality sits somewhere in the middle. Influence can protect you, but it can also make you a target for assumptions, stories, and projection. Then came one of the most sensitive topics in the entire discussion: protective custody. The idea alone carries weight in prison culture, regardless of why it happens or whether it's voluntary or administrative. Once that label enters a conversation, it changes how people interpret everything else. Rumors began circulating that at some point, there may have been movement between different housing statuses or protective arrangements. But here's where the confusion deepens again. Because high-profile inmates are often evaluated differently from the start, security classifications, housing decisions, and placement aren't always driven by inmate choice. They're also driven by administration concerns. And that detail gets lost in online storytelling. To the internet, everything becomes symbolic. But in reality, a lot of it is procedural. Still, once a narrative like that forms, it spreads faster than clarification ever can. And that's exactly what happened here. Eventually, the conversation shifted again when a prison veteran reportedly spoke out. A man with decades inside the federal system, someone whose credibility wasn't built on social media, but on time served in the same environment people were discussing. According to him, many of the viral claims didn't match what he understood about how Pooh Shiesty carried himself during his time inside. He described a more low-profile approach, staying to himself, avoiding unnecessary conflict, not feeding into attention. That version directly contradicted some of the louder online narratives. And suddenly, the story wasn't just what happened inside, it became who do you believe? Anonymous claims online, or someone with long-term experience in the system? That's where the internet usually reaches its limit. Because without verified footage or official documentation of everyday prison interactions, most of what circulates becomes interpretation, not fact. And interpretation spreads easier than truth. When Pooh Shiesty eventually came home, people expected him to behave like someone changed by a dramatic prison experience. But what stood out instead was how normal his return looked from a public standpoint. He reconnected with music. He appeared in public. He moved like someone focused on rebuilding momentum rather than explaining the past in detail. And that silence actually said more than most interviews ever could. Because in rap culture, there's often pressure to turn prison into a story, to explain it, reframe it, turn it into credibility. But he didn't fully lean into that. And that choice created even more speculation. Because when someone doesn't confirm or deny everything, the internet fills the silence with its own version of events. Then came the next chapter. Supervised release conditions, restrictions, monitoring, and eventually, reports of legal complications resurfacing not long after his release. Suddenly, the narrative shifted again, not back to prison, but to what happens after prison. Because for many people in the system, the hardest part isn't the time served. It's the transition back into freedom under conditions that still limit freedom. Every move monitored, every decision weighted, every mistake potentially restarting the cycle. And for someone young, successful, and still connected to a fast-moving industry, that becomes an extremely difficult balance. So where does that leave the story? With contradictions that never fully resolve. Allegations without full confirmation, defenses without full documentation. And a public stuck in the middle, trying to decide which version feels more believable. But maybe that's the point, because not every story in this space has a clean answer. Sometimes what you're really seeing isn't the truth versus a lie. It's multiple incomplete perspectives trying to explain a situation that happened in a world most people will never directly experience. And that's what makes stories like this spread so fast and stay relevant so long. Because people aren't just reacting to what happened, they're reacting to what could have happened. And in that space between certainty and speculation, narratives get built, destroyed, and rebuilt again. Even now. The conversation around Pooh Shiesty's time inside federal prison isn't really about one moment, one claim, or one version of events. It's about how quickly perception replaces reality when direct evidence is missing. And how, in the world of fame and incarceration, Your story is never told by just one voice. It's told by whoever speaks the loudest. If there's one takeaway from all of this, it's simple. Prison doesn't just change people. It changes how people talk about them. And once a name becomes part of that conversation, the truth and the rumors start traveling side by side. Not always separating, not always agreeing, just existing in the same space. And the audience is left to decide which version feels real. But in stories like this, that decision is never as easy as it looks.